Fitz, you do the same kind of work. Can we look at this and say this guy's a sociopath because he's so calm? Or you can't glean such a thing from doorbell camera tape?
Yeah, and I'm hesitant to do psych evals, without having sit down with the person. I'm not a psychologist, by the way, nor would I try to, but we can certainly render opinions in terms of indications of some sort of mental instability, whether diagnosable or not. And I mentioned yesterday, this guy may be on the psychopath scale somewhere, psychopathy scale, and in terms of his narcissism, lack of empathy, which I mentioned yesterday, and sympathy towards other. And this guy is just like, he gets focused on his particular mission at hand. And I said, since last week, this person's mission oriented. The implementation didn't look all that pretty when we finally saw how it was undertaken, but he knew how to get there. He knew basically what to do to get in the door with a successful abduction, not a successful kidnapping so far as we know. We'll talk more about the 6 million. So, the psych eval on someone like this, I'm always hesitant to do that. I also don't want to give down the line defense attorneys any kind of, potential defense there from, this profiler Fitzgerald guy who said this early on. So indicators of some sort of mental health issues, very possible, but I'm not prepared to go officially, nor would I, nor could I do any kind of a psych eval. But people are going to know this type of behavior. He's going to he's going to be an oddball of some sort, another clinical term I'll use here. But and most importantly, and we can get more into this later, but there's been a behavioral modification in the last week and a half with this guy. Pre-offense, post-offense, and even more post-video. And that's what I'd like to talk about at some point down the line here with you, Megyn.
Because he's in a panic now.
Yes. This happened, which he didn't plan on happening.
His face is everywhere. I mean, I wonder how the detainment of the wrong guy last night affects the actual perp, right? There had to be a serious moment of panic when those pictures hit. And then they've stopped what they say is the wrong guy and SWAT's at his house and so on. That's got to be somewhat reassuring. They don't have you yet. You've got time to get out of town, to, stay underground. I'm not sure. Like, what would you three think the perp would do in the wake of the wrong guy?
If I could just start here, and I'll let the other folks talk, but I think the term person of interest was coined during the Atlanta Olympic bombings. At least I never heard that term before. It's not really a legal term. It's less than suspect or subject, somewhere in the middle there. And that was for Richard Jewell. And he went through hell with the FBI and the media back then involving lawsuits. I was there doing some consulting at the time, but I had nothing to do with anything with Richard Jewell interviews. And then a year or two later, we found out it was Eric Rudolph was the Olympic bomber. And we always, commented among ourselves at how relieved he must have been that first few months. The actual bomber of the Olympics that killed 2 people, here's a security guard, the one being accused. So I'm just bringing in, cases I've worked in the past. So yeah, the real kidnapper, the guy on the screen, the video, and ostensibly, if there's kidnappers out there, they're saying, "Oh, good, let them stop someone else and get him." But they're also going to know, I would think, that he's going to be ruled in or ruled out pretty quickly. And fortunately, this is not a Richard Jewell situation. He was ruled out within a few hours and let go, and now he's getting his interviews. So, a moment of relief perhaps for the guy on the video, but now he's back scared again, and his behavior is still sort of erratic, based on the baseline of what people knew him from before.
Here's the other question I have for you guys, and you can comment on that too. But Maureen, what about the fact that there were tons of reports last night that SWAT was there, hostage rescue was there, and that officials, I don't know if it was FBI or local sheriffs, but cops were all over, yet again, Annie Guthrie's property, in the back, and all over with her neighbors, going door to door. Annie Guthrie, not Nancy Guthrie's, Annie Guthrie's, where she had her dinner that night, but from whose house we are told by Annie and Tomas she was returned, that she did not stay overnight there, that they brought her back home, that Tomas, according to the sheriff, brought her back home at 9:48, where the garage door went up, and 9:50 it went down. So you tell me why law enforcement was flooding the field around Annie Guthrie's home last night.
I've said it before. I've done a lot of rollback warrants on locations. I have never, ever even heard of anyone going back 4 or 5 times. I believe this is the 5th time last night. It's got to do with new information coming in. And the good sign, the good part of this, of them going back there, is they obviously are receiving more information that they feel is actionable. And you have to, we have to look into it. It keeps pointing back in the same direction. Now, the fact that we detained the wrong person last night, and the fact that they let him go quickly, is a good sign. They had a number of data points. He didn't fit in. He is a driver. We have spoken from the very beginning that it was someone that was associated with the house or crossed paths with Nancy in some way, shape, or form. And this person on his phone delivered a package, probably short period of time before this event occurred. And so he's in the crosshairs. However, I think the other offenders did not bring their phones, or we would know who they are by now. They didn't have their phones in their cars, so we don't know who was exactly in the area roaming around. Because sometimes a person may not have the phone in their pocket or on their person, but they may have it in their car. No, their phones were left at home, whoever did this, or they were secreted in another more interesting way, similar to the Brown shooter. I think with the Brown shooter and also with Koberger, people learned a lot because of all the coverage and because of all the intense scrutiny of how are things done. How can you avoid this? He was stupid because he did this. These people pay attention to this and they watch this and they feel they've learned from it, and they all think they're smarter than everyone else, and they're not. But the fact that they keep going back to this same location every single time, these are oftentimes a conspiracy, kidnappings of 3 people, 2, 3 people as a general rule. And I believe we can ask Fitz and Mary if that's what they believe. But all the ones we've worked, they've been like 3 people involved. So this person could have just been one of the people they thought might have been involved, but it hasn't. So the refocusing has begun, and it's intense. And I don't think that was the only person they had that they were looking at.
Well, no, it's not, because Cash said persons of interest, and he's not a dope. He wouldn't have used the plural if he didn't mean it. But Mary Ellen, if you said to me, there's been a school shooting, and I know nothing about who did it, and you asked me for the likely profile of the shooter. I mean, these days I'd say it's somebody, it's a male pretending to be a female on some sort of drugs. I mean, there's just been such an elevation of people claiming to be trans doing the shootings. But it's either that, I'd say, or it's a white male between the ages of 19 and 26 who's a loner, who's been going to the shooting range, who's probably done some violent sketches or social media, who'd spend a lot of time gaming potentially. I mean, we know, it is possible even for somebody like me who's not as skilled as you are to come up with a profile. But what you say, who kidnaps an 84-year-old woman in the dead of night, and now you actually have the blessing of a picture of him doing part of the crime. What does that profile look like?
Well, when you're talking about cases of the shootings from the time of Columbine, which was 1999, we've had really thousands of shootings. That's a lot of data where we can now comfortably say, this is the kind of person that we're looking at. These are the pre-offense behaviors. But when it comes to kidnappings, especially like this, and all 3 of us have worked these kinds of cases or cases involving kidnappings that were part of like a serial murder investigation, this case itself is an outlier. So it's very difficult to say, well, based on all the other cases similar to this, this is probably what we're looking at. And that's always been the challenge when you're trying to develop sort of a profile of an individual, because these just are extremely rare cases. And so I think as Jim and Maureen were both pointing out, you go back and you take a look at how the crime was constructed and how the offender access the victim. And Jim and I used to sit around in the conference room at Quantico, and one of the first things that we did, we would look at victimology. We didn't have those numbers of cases to go back and say 9 times out of 10, what was it? So we would have to go back and look at, for example, the victimology. It's the first thing that we looked at. Is this a high or a low risk victim? Is this a victim where the crime scene was very low risk? And Nancy is a very low risk victim. She didn't live a criminal lifestyle, and she was victimized in her own home, which was in a nice neighborhood with people around her. So we're basically starting from scratch to identify what we think information that will tell us something about this offender. And then those videos last night were insight into the offender. So we add that to the profile as well. But again, going back and saying, this is what the data says, this is what the research says, we really don't have that, because these cases, fortunately, don't occur that often. So we're back to really building almost an original profile.
International disputes, inflation, rising national debt, digital currency. There's a never-ending list of reasons gold has risen over 700% in the last 20 years. And a never-ending list of reasons smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals with Birch Gold Group. Gold can thrive during uncertainty, which is why it's a crucial part of a balanced strategy. It gives you peace of mind, given all the events that could impact the U.S. economy. See if holding gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account is right for you. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. Just text MK to the number 989898 to receive your free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, consider letting Birch Gold help you diversify with gold, so you too can have peace of mind regardless of the uncertainty. Text MK to 989898. Do you guys think that they can do, the FBI, because I've heard two different experts now, former FBI both, on the issue of facial recognition, notwithstanding the fact that he has a mask on. And one guy said, we ran it on AM Update, absolutely, it can still be done, even though he's got the mask on. And then there was another guy who gave an interview to Ashley Banfield saying, I don't think so, not with that mask on, it's going to be too difficult. Facial recognition does depend on angles and things like that, and the iris too. And you can see this guy's irises sort of, but they're reflected with light, so you can't really see them. Do you have any idea, any of you, whether the FBI's facial recognition technology is likely to produce out some names?
They're working on it right now, I have no doubt. They're contacting different software companies who have AI capabilities, and they're doing their best with that. Long before I was on the Unabomb task force, 1987, the biggest break in that case, at that point, 9 years old from the first bombing, was the now iconic composite sketch of the Unabomber. And that's all they had for evidence. He went dark for then 6 years after that, then came back in 93, started bombing again and writing to the New York Times, et cetera. So that was a big deal then. Of course, AI didn't even exist. Facial recognition software didn't exist, but that composite really went nowhere. You can ask yourself, you can look at Ted Kaczynski, eventually arrested in the composite, maybe not. He even wrote in his journal, he put wads of gum like in his cheeks and all to make himself look a little bit heftier, at least his face. And of course the hoodie and the hair had combed down. So, and I'm not suggesting the person in this video.
He was brilliant though. Ted was brilliant. This guy, which with the vegetation, he's not brilliant.
Yeah, I'm not comparing the two on levels of brilliance. Kaczynski got away with it for 17 years. This guy's up to about 10 days so far, give or take. So, and this video being released was a mistake on his part. Whether he had information, there was no subscription, so he was safe, although he's still trying to hide the camera with these darn flowers, whatever the hell that means, then it eventually takes it off. He may have had inside information from somewhere that with no subscription, there will never be any video. This surprised him like it did most of us yesterday. In real time, I was getting surprised, Megyn, as you were putting these pictures out, and then we analyzed them accordingly. So this definitely altered his behavior. And I'll let the other folks hear, about the AI facial recognition software. It's out there, and there's probably people claiming they can do something with it. They're going to come up with maybe 10 or 12 different, we'll call them composites, of what this guy looks like under the mask, and maybe one of them will resemble him.
I feel like you can see sort of what he looks like. Like, let's put the pictures back on the board. What I see is somebody with a very round head, like a super round head. maybe we can get like more of the full shot of him. He's got large eyes. They don't look hooded to me, you know, like a bunch of age has set in or like an Asian ethnicity.
Right.
They look pretty open, his eyes. He's got what appear to be pronounced eyebrows. Some people have focused on how they almost look like women's eyebrows, like overly plucked, but that could also be just his face mask and the way it's making them look. So I'm not sure about the eyebrows. He also seems to have stick out ears. If you see like the side shot, his ears, some people's, if I put that thing over my head, you wouldn't even see my ears. My ears are pretty flat to my head, but his aren't. So that's interesting to me. He definitely has, or at least wore, fake facial hair, or it's real facial hair. But I mean, I imagine he wasn't banking on getting seen on camera. But in any event, he appears to have a mustache and either a soul patch or actual facial hair down below. And again, as we said yesterday, he appears to be like kind of stocky, not skinny, that's for sure. And either white or Hispanic, I think. That's my guess. I don't know, Maureen. I feel like there's a fair amount there to go off.
There is so much information there, and I agree with you 100% on the eyebrows. This is a guy who probably, without this baklava on or ski cap, you would say he had beautiful dark eyes and just eyebrows that frame his eyes nicely. It's the stitching around, and pardon me while I look at this photo I have on my phone so I can blow it up a little more.
Yeah.
But if you look at the eye openings on this mask, it's got about a quarter inch stitch all the way around. And the reason his eyebrows look as if they're beautifully groomed is because that stitching cuts off all the top where his eyebrows would be relatively unruly. And, you know, it only shows just that perfect arc, so to speak. He does have large eyes, but the close-up photo of his face that you see where you can see the lips and the upper, the mustache or the hair on his face, those lips are very, very distinctive. If most of us were doing any type of work where we're handling something, you know, most of us like make some kind of a face or something. Look at how calm he is. He's about to break into an 84-year-old woman's home, and he's sauntering around like he works there. He's just as calm as
he
can
is so
be.
calm. It's very telling because I swear it's like, is this like his job? Because he's approaching it like, I've done this many times. Oh, the Nest camera, I'll try to cover it up, or maybe I won't. I don't know. I've got my backpack with, you know, I've got my gun on me. Some tool was used against, could have just been fists, against his 84-year-old victim inside. But man, he's like, this is, I have more energy sitting down to this desk to do the show every day than this guy appeared to have. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.